In the last video, you found your retirement number. Now comes the part that stops most people cold. How do you actually invest the money to get there? You picture a wall of tickers, confusing jargon, and 1,000 ways to lose it all. But here's the truth. The winning strategy is embarrassingly simple. It takes about 15 minutes a year, and the entire financial industry would honestly rather you never found out. Let's kill the biggest myth first. You do not need to be a genius. You do not need to pick the next Apple, read earnings reports, or watch the market all day. In fact, study after study shows the more people trade and tinker, the worse they do. The investors who win are almost never the smartest. They're the most consistent. Need proof? Look at the professionals. Over any 15-year stretch, nearly 90% of professional fund managers, people with Ivy League degrees and Bloomberg terminals, fail to beat a simple index fund. And they charge you high fees for the privilege of losing. If the pros can't beat the market, you and I have no business trying. So flip the whole game. Your goal is not to beat the market. Your goal is to own the market. Instead of betting on which single company wins, you buy a tiny slice of all of them at once. When the economy grows over the decades, and history says it does, you grow right along with it. You stop gambling, and you start owning. The tool that does this is the index fund. With a single purchase, you instantly own a piece of hundreds or even thousands of companies. An S&P 500 fund gives you the 500 biggest companies in America in one click. And the fee? Often around 0.03%. $3 a year on $10,000 invested. Practically free. Now, people online will argue about this endlessly. 20 different funds, complex strategies, the perfect mix. Ignore almost all of it. You can build a complete, world-class retirement portfolio with just 3 funds, not 30. 3. Here they are. Fund 1, a total U.S. stock market fund, so you own American business. Fund 2, a total international fund, so you own the rest of the world and aren't betting on a single country. And Fund 3, a bond fund, which is the boring, stable ballast that cushions you when stocks fall. Those 3 together own basically the entire global economy. So how much goes in each? The split between stocks and bonds is the one real decision, and there's a simple starting point. Take the number 110 and subtract your age. That's roughly the percentage to hold in stocks. Everything else goes into bonds. It's not perfect, but it's a solid, sane default that adjusts as you get older. Watch how that plays out. A 30-year-old lands around 80% stocks. Why so aggressive? Because they have 30-plus years to ride out every crash. And history shows the market always recovered given enough time. A 60-year-old shifts closer to 50-50. Not because bonds are better, but because they no longer have decades to wait for a recovery. It was never about being brave. It's about time. Now here's the lever almost nobody talks about, and it can be worth tens of thousands of dollars. Where you hold these funds matters just as much as which funds you buy. The reason is taxes. The same investment can grow completely tax-free in one account and get quietly taxed every year in another. So the accounts you use are not a detail. They're the game. Fill them in this exact order. First, your 401k, but only up to the point your employer matches. Second, a Roth IRA. Third, if you're eligible, a health savings account, the most tax-advantaged account that exists. And only after you've filled those, a regular taxable brokerage account. Follow that waterfall, and you squeeze every drop of tax advantage the system offers. Why is the 401k match first? Because it is free money, full stop. A typical employer matches your contributions dollar for dollar up to 3 to 5% of your salary. That is an instant, guaranteed 100% return on your money before it's even invested. There is no stock, no fund, nothing on earth that reliably doubles your money the second you buy it. Never leave that match on the table. The Roth IRA is the crown jewel. You contribute money you've already paid tax on, and then something magical happens. It grows for decades, and when you pull it out in retirement, every single dollar, including all those years of gains, comes out completely tax-free. Invest a few thousand a year in your 30s, and you could withdraw hundreds of thousands tax-free in your 60s. The government simply cannot touch it. Once your accounts are chosen, do the single most important thing in all of personal finance: automate it. Set up an automatic transfer on every payday that moves money in and buys your funds before you ever see it. Pay yourself first, automatically. So the decision is already made and your willpower never even enters the room. This steady automatic buying is called dollar cost averaging. And its real superpower isn't math, it's psychology. You buy the same amount through the highs and the lows on autopilot. That quietly protects you from the two things that destroy most investors: buying in a frenzy when prices are high and panic selling when they crash. The machine has no feelings, and that's exactly the point. Because let's be honest about what actually loses people money. It was never the market itself. It's two things. And they both start with F, fees, and feelings. Master those two, and you've already beaten the vast majority of investors. Start with fees. A 1% annual fee sounds harmless, a rounding error. But compounded over a 40-year career, that 1% can quietly devour a third of your entire nest egg. On a portfolio that should have grown to $1 million, a 1% fee can cost you $300,000. So keep your fees as close to zero as humanly possible. It's the easiest raise you'll ever give yourself. Now, the feelings. At some point, the market will crash. It will drop 20, 30, even 40%. The headlines will scream, and every cell in your body will beg you to sell. Do not. In 2008, and again in 2020, the market fell off a cliff, and both times it fully recovered and went on to new highs. A crash is only a temporary loss on paper. The instant you sell, you make it permanent and real. So what maintenance does this actually require? Almost none. Once a year, take 15 minutes to check your mix and nudge it back toward your target split. If stocks soared and now they're overweight, you trim a little and add to bonds. Quietly, automatically. This forces you to sell high and buy low, the exact opposite of what your emotions want. 15 minutes. Once a year. That's it. And burn this rule into your memory. Time in the market beats timing the market. The data is brutal here. If you'd stayed fully invested over the last few decades, but happened to miss just the 10 best days that almost always come right after the scariest crashes, your total return could be cut in half. The people who try to jump out and back in almost always miss those days. The ones who simply stay put win. So let's put the entire strategy on one card. Buy the whole market through low-cost index funds. Hold them in tax-advantaged accounts, in the right order. Automate your contributions so willpower never matters. Keep your fees near zero, never panic sell, rebalance once a year, and otherwise, leave it completely alone for decades. That's it. It's boring. It's almost anticlimactic. And boring is precisely why it works. There's nothing to brag about at a dinner party, but there's everything to show for it in 40 years. Do this consistently, and the retirement number you calculated last time stops being a dream and becomes almost inevitable. Subscribe to follow the full retirement series, and I'll see you in the next one.